Whether you're talking to a logger or an environmental activist, deforestation is a word that makes people uncomfortable, and with good reason. There's an important part of many of our planet's ecosystems, not just for the animals who call them home, but for the quality and stability of our soils. Plus, there's the fact that trees are some of the largest oxygen-producing plants on the planet. In fact, 28% of our global oxygen comes from trees. Thanks to some forward-thinking scientists and governments, we have places like national parks and wildlife sanctuaries set aside specifically to keep us from gobbling up all the planet's resources. The stories of those places and the conservationists who guard them are long, with rich histories of dedication and hard work. But you don't have to be a park ranger or politician to care about the environment. Today, we bring you the stories of a few amazing average Joes who've committed their lives to revitalize habitats that were once destroyed. M.C. Davis. The early life of M.C. Davis is hardly one-of-a-kind story. In America alone, there are around 15 million children who grow up in families scraping by below the poverty line. And you can't get much poorer than 6 people stuffed into a 300-square-foot broken-down trailer on a dirt road in the Florida Panhandle. But a diamond can't be made without going under pressure. Pushed by the desire for a better life, Davis started gambling when he was just 16 years old. Now, normally, those words would end in the story of a tragic addiction. Gambling can be unpredictable, and far too many individuals have already bet their entire lives away, convinced that they just need one last win. It's not a stable escape plan, and most normal people wouldn't even consider it. But Davis could see his future, and as far as he was concerned, it wasn't him stuck in some backwoods. He was a capitalist. He worked hard and he played dumb. The bets he made were easy and safe, and he eventually hustled his way to the top. For 14 years, he invested every little shred of energy into earning as much money as he possibly could, and he probably would have kept on going if it hadn't been for one fateful rainy traffic jam. Stuck bumper to bumper and out of his mind with frustration, Davis decided to pull off the road and sat himself down at a high school presentation about the precarious state of the Florida black bear. He was ashamed to admit that he didn't even know there were bears in Florida at all. That shame sparked something inside him. He started reading books on the environment, and because of a single moment, suddenly the place he wanted to escape turned into the very place he planned to protect. He started dedicating his life and massive fortune to nature. Over the next few years, he bought huge tracts of land and mineral rights, busily amassing the largest privately owned wildlife sanctuary in the southeastern United States. Thanks to his hard work and determination, this unlikely conservationist restored the balance of tens of thousands of acres worth of rich ecosystems. 54,000 acres to be exact, filled with frogs and turtles, and yes, even bears. Unfortunately, in November of 2014, Davis was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. But thanks to his clear vision, a 300-year plan, and a dedicated team of nature lovers to succeed him, the Noku's plantation will continue to be a refuge for endangered species for centuries to come. People were laughing when he planted trees in a desert. It's no secret that trees are important to our plant's soil. Their shed leaves keep the ground cool and moist as they break down. At the same time, their decay fills the earth with microorganisms and fertile nitrogen. This not only feeds other plants, but also provides habitat for countless small creatures such as salamanders and ants. But if creepy crawlies aren't that high on your comfort list, there's another crucial job trees do. Their roots tie the ground together like a million tiny threads, keeping it from washing away when it rains. It's arguable that without trees, we wouldn't have any ground to stand on. Soil erosion is a particularly serious problem on Majuli Island in northern India. In fact, estimates predict that in 20 years, the island could wash away entirely. Or at least it could if it weren't for the single-handed efforts of a man named Yadav Payeng. Back in 1979, when Payeng was just a teenager, he spoke out about his concerns over this quickly vanishing island. But he was just some kid. No one took him seriously, especially not the government. At that point, most people would have just given up. Oh well, not his problem anymore, right? But Payeng didn't take no for an answer. There weren't a whole lot of options for a lowly teenager, so he did the only thing he could do. He planted a tree. And the next day, he planted another. and another. Every day for the next 40 years, he planted a single tree. At first, it was difficult. He had to bring in saplings and settle them into the sand. They needed careful monitoring and care in order to take root and survive their first few weeks. But the more he planted, the better the soil got. Soon other plants began to thrive, and Payeng's job got easier. Eventually, he was able to use the seeds of existing trees to plant new ones instead of saplings. Miraculously, his personal sanctuary went largely unnoticed for the better part of 3 decades. You'd think people would see a giant forest go up, but he even built a, shall we say, unusual house, got married, and raised 3 children inside this private jungle without incident. By the time anyone realized it was there, Payeng's forest was 550 hectares, or 1,359 acres. That's bigger than Central Park. In an interview, he said that his greatest worry, now that his paradise has been discovered, was poachers. Tigers, elephants, and countless other species had moved onto the island, sheltering themselves in his forest for at least a few months out of the year. The island may very well survive because of Payeng, and he has no plans to stop planting. But there are no special protections set in place for this paradise. The only thing that could destroy Majuli now is mankind. Couple plants 50,000 trees in 15 years in northern China. Our childhood memories can be some of the most precious treasures we hold, and it was no different for Tubat and his wife Tusonsagan. Their memories of their hometown in Inner Mongolia are filled with luscious grasslands and lakes, so picturesque they belong on a postcard. The land was filled with life, including a thriving animal population, and rain was a common event. But human encroachment and unforgiving sandstorms ate up the landscape. Over time, everything was swallowed up by the march of the Great Badain Jaran Desert. For most people, that would be it, climate change and all that. But instead of laying down and taking the last kick of an ailing Mother Nature, the couple decided to do something about the desert. And what was their grand plan? Why, it was trees, of course, specifically saxals. These gnarled trees, similar to shrubs or weeds, depending on the species, are tough as nails. Not only are they the type of tree the couple remembered, but they're also probably the only kind of tree that could have survived the harsh desert habitat. We're talking about a tree that most people only water once a year, but that can provide so much to desert people. So, when Tibet retired from his position as a government official in 2002, he and his wife got to work. Over the next 15 years, the two of them spent their springs planting somewhere in the range of 50,000 trees, or 133 soccer fields worth of forest. It was hard work, and not all the trees made it, but a good 90% of them settled in and started to grow. And that's because each day they'd get on a motorbike and make an 18-mile journey to their forest. Their days were spent tending to the vegetation, methodically ensuring that each tree got water 3 times a year. It may not sound like much, barely any work at all, but watering 50,000 trees isn't something you get done over a day or even a week. It's a full-time job. Even just getting water out there was a major challenge. If you've ever worked on a farm or set up a fish tank, then you know that water is heavy. Each gallon of water weighs approximately 8 pounds. Since there was no lake around the trees, the couple had to lug in all the water they needed, a task they did themselves at first. They later purchased donkeys to help carry the load. Eventually, as the needs of the forest continued to grow, the couple modified a motorbike to hold 48 gallons of water. This little pet project didn't go unnoticed. Most people laughed at their efforts. After all, who tries to plant a forest in the desert? Their 3 children didn't support their choice at all. The couple had spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on trees, working tirelessly with no help from anyone else. Their house was a rundown shack. So when his wife needed surgery, he was hardly surprised that all 3 of the children not only offered for the couple to stay with them, but they begged them to abandon their forest. They refused, stating that it made them happy to see their desert green again. They have no plans to stop and will continue watering their childhood as long as they can. We hope you enjoyed the video. Let us know which one of these stories really impressed you the most. Do you know anyone who's planted a forest? If you liked the video, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you'll be the first to know when a new video arrives. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.